Welcome to Modeling Time with me, Brian Banna, and part 2 in the GP30 Wreck Rebuild into a GP28. Now before I go into what I'm going to do in this video, I got a little bone to pick with you guys. I know you want to see a good model and stuff, but I think you also want to see me forget something and then at the end come back and say, hey, why didn't you add such and such? And I'd be like, oh, wow, I gotta go back and do that. Well, you're gonna have to get up pretty early to pull the wool over my eyes on that. Not even Macho Man Special Forces Jeff and his cat Voodoo get up early enough to catch that worm. So yes, I did fix it, and I'll explain what it is. So all kidding aside, yes, I did find something that I left off that I needed to put on before I continue. It's a really minor detail, but it's the ground lights that go under the frame here and here, so that the engineer can see if they're actually moving or not, because the engine's rumbling, everything feels like it's moving. So I had to put those in, and yes, I did forget them on the GP28 frame, so I got those in. I've got them painted, and that's all done. So taking care of that. So anyway, let's get into what's going on in this video. This one should be fairly short. This one's about painting, doing a little bit of painting. My goal right now, before I start working on the hood and stuff for the Wreck Rebuild GP30, is to bring the Wreck Rebuild up to the same level that my EMD GP28s are. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to paint the frame, paint the trucks. I'm going to get the sill unit painted, get the handrails painted and such, get the motor in and get the motor programmed, so everything will be at the same level across the board. Then I can go to working on the Wreck Rebuild. Now, what the EMD GP28s have is the sub base is done on them, but I don't think I'm going to be doing that right away on the Wreck Rebuild because of how it all fits together. I do need to basically glue the cab to the sub base. So on this one, what I'll probably do is get everything built. I got to get the windows, get all the interior done. It's not going to be a detailed interior. But with the cab, the Kato GP35 cab interior in here, the front face of it is very visible and it just doesn't look right. So I'm hoping my friend in Kansas City still has his GP30 on his property, and I asked him to take pictures of the inside so I can just kind of cobble it together and get it to look like it's supposed to be. I mean, you really don't see in through the windows, but what you do see, I don't want it to be obviously wrong. So with that, what I do is after I get that information, I'll rebuild the cab interior, and then I have to put the A and B windows in. I have to do the number boards and all that kind of stuff. Thankfully, the number boards are black on the outside, so I can decal them. Or are they? I'll have to check that. Yeah, they're black. Because what I didn't tell you before is that this unit is going to be in full Penn Central paint with Cpt&C logo on the side of the cab. The EMD GP28s, those are going to be in full Cpt&C paint, but with Penn Central worms on the ends. So that's the way that's going to go. So anyways, I won't be getting the sill unit, I won't be getting the sub base done on the Wreck Rebuild right away, but I will have the sill unit all painted. Now what I need to do to the sill unit is first, before I can paint it black, is I got to paint yellow on the edges of the steps and the footboards. I also, for the handrails, have to paint yellow on the leading edge, so the safety yellow on the leading edge. So somebody in one of my earlier, I think it was the GP35 videos, asked if I could show how I do a crisp paint job on the handrails and a nice thin and nice sharp dividing line between the yellow and the black. So I'll show that on there. So right now what I need to do is just get the frames painted and the trucks, or the gear towers, and the truck side frames. I need to get that all assembled and get the motors and everything back into the frame. But first, let me just get the frames painted. Nothing special to show there. I'm going to use Tamiya semi-gloss black on those. It'll put a nice finish on them. After that, I'll be doing a clear coat, a gloss clear coat to seal the paint. And then after that, I'll be putting a satin varnish on it. Now, one thing I want to bring up, and I've done this on one model build, and I'm telling you guys, it is a lifesaver for getting things done quickly and methodically. And that's to make yourself a laundry list of what you want to do for the day. So on this one, I'm going to do that on this project, because on the GP35 Pennsylvania project, I kind of procrastinated because I was trying to think of, okay, what do I need to do next? I don't want to forget something and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, it just goes on and on. But with this, you've got a instruction sheet basically of what you need to do, and do it methodically. Don't just put a whole bunch of things on one line. Break it down into its individual things. So for instance, on this card, I've got paint trucks black, paint frames black, paint step, footboard, pilot grab, and end rails yellow. Then I'll be waiting a while, maybe a couple hours, clear gloss all black painted parts. Then wait a little bit longer, satin varnish all black painted parts. You get what I'm saying? You know, break it down into the steps. Then after that, then I've got reassemble trucks, install motor and drive line, and program decoders. So that helps you just walk right through everything and not forget some of the things that you want to do. So when you're making this card, don't just, you know, rattle things off. Think in your mind what, you know, look at what you're working on next, and it might be, you know, adding detail parts. Add such and such to cab, or add such and such to hood. Or like when I get to the after I paint all the yellow on the sill unit, then it will be mask step edges, mask footboards, mask yellow on handrails, that kind of stuff. So I'll be showing you my cards every day now, or every time I do move to the next step, I'll be showing you my cards so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So let me go ahead and get these parts painted black, and we'll come back and work on some other stuff. All right, well, I got everything painted that I wanted to get painted. So real quick here, we've got, this is 2802. So she's all ready for me to move on, getting the cab done, and then finishing off the hood. She's all programmed, sounds really, really good. Right now, looking like the same model I just showed you, unit number 2807 is being on the program track right now. So it's getting its program loaded up into the decoder. Excuse me. So let me go over real quick what I've got done here. So I've got everything checked off here. Paint the trucks, paint the frames, paint the steps, footboard, pilot grab ends, end rails yellow, clear coat all the black parts, did that, satin varnish all the black parts, did that. So we're good to go on that. One thing I still have to do on the side sills, or the sill units, I want to, on the 2802 and 2807, which are the as delivered EMD GP28s, I want to paint the fuel fill cap red. But I don't know if I'm going to paint that. I think I'm going to do that in a decal. I've got to do some decals, so I'm going to put that on the sheet and see how it comes out. If it comes out well, then that's what I'll put on there. If it doesn't, then I'll just go ahead and paint them. So put that aside. So I've got reassembled the trucks. I got them all greased up like I showed you in my Pennsylvania Railroad GP35. Got that all good. They run super smooth. If I turn the sound off, not a sound coming out of them. It runs as good as the Jeep or the Pennsylvania unit. So I've got the motor installed, the driveline installed, and all that stuff, and I'm at the programming the decoders. So that takes care of that. Here is the rebuild unit, Let me see if I can tilt it sideways. Oh yeah, the trucks are on. This is the only time that the front truck will have the worm gear clip on it. I'm going to have to take it off, and I'll explain to you that as I get to the reason why when I get to the build portion of it. But this is what it looks like from the side, so we can get some more light on that. So I've got to get this one on the program track and such. So what I need to do now is take this off, set that aside with the other hoods. And of course there you can see all the wiring and everything. Actually, I can tell you right now why when I take this worm clip off again. The reason why this worm clip is on now is because of the programming, test running it, and blah, 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 and all that stuff. Now, when I go to assemble this model, there's nothing to attach the hood to the sill. So that, all of this has to get glued onto the sill. So once it's all painted and stuff, I'll glue it from the inside with CA. The Tamiya extra thin, like this stuff that's made from MEK and stuff like, it's not strong enough to glue these two hard plastics together. So I'll use CA to do that. So that takes care of that. Now, the reason why I can't put the worm clip on or leave the worm clip on is on this side. Let me take this off. I have to show you how I'm painting this anyway, and take that off. If you look on this side, you're going to see a chain dangling down. Well, that chain has to go through this pulley on the side of the that's hanging off the sill. In my great wisdom of how I was going to do this, I didn't give it too much thought. But I thought, oh yeah, I'll just thread that through there and plug it in somewhere underneath. Well, I didn't do that before I painted it, so I had to figure out what I was going to do. So what's going to have to happen is this worm clip has to come off. That way, when I put the sill unit on and lock it in with the couplers or the draft gearbox, well, then I got to tilt it sideways, and I got to feed that chain through here. I'm going to make a little tiny hook. And you don't see it right now, but underneath the frame, I drilled a 10 thousandths hole. So what's going to happen is after I feed that hook and chain through the pulley, then I will, the truck will kind of be dangling on there a little bit. I'll have to, you know, use some creative hand holding and laying it on foam and all that to get it in there. I'll feed the chain through the pulley, and then I'll tack glue that hook up underneath the frame, because what it does is it basically goes through the pulley and then straight back into the frame. So I'll just put a hook on. Once it's all together, you won't see the hook, you'll just see the chain going back. So I'll have to do that. But right now I don't need to do that. That'll come later on. So right now this is going to stay like it is. And once 2807 is programmed, this will be unit 3000 because it retained its GP30 road number. I actually have four numbers to choose from, 3000 to 3003. I may do 3003, I'm not sure. But anyway, this is where it stands right now. And I'll program that once 2807 is done. Let me put this aside. And now it's time to show you how I do my taping. And earlier today I posted a video real quick on bare metal foil. Well, actually not bare metal foil, but this Model Masters ultra thin chrome foil spelled with a K, K-R-O-M. Somebody picked it up. There was only 2 sheets left. But if you ever find this, get it, because I'm going to show you how to use it for masking, and the pitfalls of it, and the joys of using it, and the not so joys of using it. So let me get everything all set up real quick. So I've got to mask this face, the sides, the step edges, and then the back of these. Now I said this was going to be full Penn Central, and Penn Central didn't paint those black. So although it's full Penn Central, it's still Cpt&C. and Cpt&C put yellow safety paint on the backs of the steps. So let me get all set up, and we'll go over and we'll do one of these first. So I'll do the handrails first, and then I'll come back and we'll do like one of these footboards. And doing one footboard is exactly the same as doing the side steps. So these will be the easiest to do, because this one I have to hold it on its side and do it. Well, anyways, all of them I kind of have to hold them weird. So, but you'll see how I do that. This one's pretty easy. Just put a piece of tape over the backs of those. So let me get all my tools out, and I'll be right back. Okay. Well, before I get started on this, let me just read over what the next steps are, since this one ends with programming the decoders. This video will end with painting the draft gearboxes. So I've got mask the step edges, mask the blower duct ends, mask the handrail ends, paint handrails black, paint sill unit black, paint MU hoses, install MU hoses, install pilot grab, install handrails, clean train line hose, paint train line hose, install train line hose, clear coat gloss the sill unit, decal the sill, clear gloss over the decals, satin varnish sill unit, paint the draft gearboxes. So that's what we have left to do for this video. So it's time to get one of these done up. So somebody had asked, how do I get a nice sharp edge on separation between the handrail stanchion and the handrail itself? Well, I'm going to show you. Let me zoom in on this. Let me make sure it stays in focus. Come on, get in focus. There we go. All right. So, let me zoom back out real quick here. Okay. So the things that I need a straight edge, tweezers, my toothpick for burnishing, and always use a sharp knife with this stuff. What I mean by this stuff is this chrome foil. If you're not using a sharp knife, you're going to tear the edges and it's going to be a wasted piece. So you want a nice, clean, sharp edge. So always use a sharp knife. If you use this knife for anything else other than cutting this, don't use it. Put a new one in. So of course I need the bare metal foil. I need this Humbrol mascol, which this one is pretty much turned in, or coagulated and turned into treacle, but it's still good enough to use for what I'm doing tonight. I've got 2 more bottles on order. This stuff is great. I mask my wheel tips with that also, and the cups in the trucks. And then I need 6 of these tweezers that have the little slide thing that keep them closed. So, and that is because once I put the what I'm going to do is I'm going to be masking just the end of the rail where it meets the stanchion. Then I'm going to be painting on this mascol. And once I do that, I don't want this piece touching anything. So I'll be just basically holding it out like that. And then actually not even like that. More like that. And then I can set it down and it won't touch the surface. These tweezers are fantastic. I have a whole bunch. I need to get some more of them. But I have a whole bunch of them. And they're great for holding little parts and stuff for painting, so you don't have to touch them and stuff. I can hold the gear towers, I can hold the gear or the truck side frames, or all these little parts and things like that. But for right now, I don't need that on there. I need to get my workspace cleaned up. I need to zoom in on this again. Let me see if I can get this out here to keep it focused. I got to get my hand in here. Where's the focus? There we go. Okay, so let's get this done. So like I said, first thing you want is a sharp blade. So let's cut a little strip. Actually, I've got a little piece cut right here, but I'm going to show you real quick cutting. So you're just going to estimate the size that you need. I need a strip approximately that big right there. And we're just going to go. You don't have to really press hard. Do a slice like that, and then I take my finger and I burnish it down in case there's any lip that came up when cutting. So now that piece is ready. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a piece that I think is long enough that'll wrap all the way around. And take the knife, slip it under that edge, hold it, and you got your piece right there. Right there. So now I'm going to take this, put this in between my thumb and forefinger a little bit, and use the tweezers. And I'm just going to, hopefully this will go on camera, I'm going to lay it on this front side right up against the stanchion. Not up against the stanchion, I gotta reposition it. Making sure I'm on camera there. And then I just wrap it around. I could keep a hand on this thing, it's popping out all over the place. And then I just take my toothpick here and just burnish down the ends where it goes up against. Now one thing you got to understand about this stuff, it doesn't like to stick to itself. So when you're wrapping the sticky part back over the foil, it'll stay stuck, but it comes up easily. There. So now I have the area. I keep sticking to this thing. There we go. I have the area where it makes contact with the stanchion all taken care of. Next thing we do, I'm going to put this on here. Now usually I'll go through and I'll get all of this with foil on it. Whoop, where are we going here? I'll get all of this with foil on it, and then I'll put the mask all on. But since I'm giving you show and tell here, and we don't want to waste too much of your time, then I get a toothpick. It has somewhat of a blunt end on it, and I'll stick it in the maskell. Find a spot that's, see what I mean? It's turning to treacle. I gotta find a spot that doesn't have. Now when it does that, best thing to do is just take your finger, peel it down, roll it between your fingers, and drop it off. It'll dry really fast like that, so you can just get that little piece off of there. Now let me see if I can find a spot. There we go. So then all I do is I just paint this stuff on here. and I overlap the foil, making sure I don't touch the stanchion. Now, when this stuff starts to dry, if you touch it to anything that's dry on the stanchion or on the handrail, it'll just pull it right off. So be careful not to do that. Yeah, this stuff is going, really. This is the last time I'll be able to use it. Thankfully, I've got more on order here. Ooh, there's a big old glob. Oh, yeah. You know, I'm probably going to have to wait till that stuff comes in, because this stuff is really bad. But you get the idea of what I'm doing. Let me get all this goo out of here. See if I can get some liquidy stuff in there. Yeah, this stuff ain't gonna work too good, but like I said, I've got some new stuff coming. You'll be here in a couple days, and I'll be able to finish these off. See what I mean? If you touch it and it's dried, it'll pull it right off. So then you got to go back over that area. If you touch it with the wet stuff, it won't pull it off. So I'm going to wait till my good stuff comes in, and I'll finish that up. So I'll go ahead and finish taping up. But you get the idea of what I'm doing is I'm masking it with the maskall, and when you're all done painting, you just roll it down like a tube sock. Just start up here and you just pull at it, and then you just start rolling it down. And I'll show you that when it's time to take it off as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this stuff. Get that in focus. There we go. Get the rest of this stuff taped up. And then when my maskall comes in, I can go over with you again all that masking. I want to make sure I give you all the information on what I'm doing here, so I don't leave anything out for you guys and stuff. Sorry about that. It was upside down. You might be wondering why I cut such a small sliver of a piece rather than a large piece to cover the area and such. That is because what I'm trying to do is keep this area that's straight covered, because as soon as you get onto the curvature part of the handrail, then the tape wants to follow that curve, so it's not going to go straight over. So what I do is I start at the top first. So let me cut a piece long enough that'll wrap all the way around. So I start at this front face first. Like that. Keep this thing on camera. Okay, then I got my toothpick here, and I'll burnish it into the edge there. And I will wrap this bottom leg around first, because that's going to go straight in, or straight up along the stanchion. And now I can wrap this top tab over, keeping it as close to the stanchion, or close to the stanchion. And now when I go underneath, it kind of goes away from the stanchion a little bit because it's following the curve. Well, actually that one didn't do it. So I proved myself wrong on that one, but on this one it did. You can see how wide the tape is there. That's because when I came underneath, it went outward, where this one just seemed to stay straight. So I wanted to give you a little view of that and show you another one being put on. Now something you need to be careful of on the Kato end platform stanchions, this is the weak point right here and right here, because when they molded this, they didn't mold it in a solid piece all the way into the stanchion. Only half of the handrail is molded solid into the stanchion, and there's a little indentation or depression in the backside where the stanchion meets the handrail, so it's really weak. I've dropped one of these on the floor and it hit wrong and it snapped right there. So when handling these things, don't get all gorilla on them. Be careful. Even though they're made with Delrin, that's the weak point right there. So be careful with that. Now, the bare metal foil, or actually I keep calling it bare metal foil, that is actually a product, bare metal foil, and I do not recommend using it for this if you don't have to, because the glue is pretty sticky with that, and getting it off is not a lot of fun. This stuff comes off. It's a little bit of work, but it's worth it. It's not horrendous work, but when I take these off, I'll show you what I mean. Bare metal foil, when you're using it for masking, taking it off, sometimes it'll leave that adhesive backing behind, which is not a lot of fun to try to get off. But this stuff wasn't made to come off either. We all know what this stuff was made for. It was made for car modelers to do chrome, where'd you put my, there we go, to do chrome bumpers and such. Now what I'm doing is I'm pulling this tab back so I can wrap the front one around. You know, this one's going to go out sideways, but that's okay, because I've already wrapped the entire handrail. And then you can burnish it down. That's what's real great about this stuff, is you can burnish the edge down and you get a super sharp line, and nothing will leak underneath that. Now the drawback to that is getting stuff up, is getting that tape back up again. It like I said, it takes some work, but the effort is worth it. I used to use this stuff a lot when I was doing N-scale taping, like when I did Great Northern, Big Sky Blue, SD45s or GP35s or whatever, taping those stripes along the edge, the side of the hood and stuff like that. But taking it up, you know, you could spend a good hour or so pulling that all that striping up. I don't use it on HO models as much, except for small areas. Get that in focus. When you see me stopping like that, it's to check the camera. There's too many times where I can do some of this stuff and it gets out of focus, and I don't want it out of focus for you guys. Alright, so that takes care of masking all of these. Let's do one step edge or a footboard. Alright, so we'll do this footboard right here. So for the footboard I need a long piece because I like to wrap the whole thing in one piece. So that's going to be what? We'll take a piece that's 400 thousandths plus 160, so we'll do 600 thousandths. So I'll cut a piece that's about 600 thousandths long, which is more than I need, but that's okay. And actually I want to cut a wider piece for that, and I'll show you why. So let's take a wide piece, like about like that. Okay, let's do a piece 600 thousandths off of that one. Alright. The last decoder is being programmed right now. What you don't want to do is have this stuff curl or fold. Alright, so the idea here is to put one edge right at the top edge of the step or footboard. So what I need to do is I just need to get that laid on there where I want it. Don't burnish it until you're sure of where you have it. Alright, so now it's right along the top. So now I'll burnish that piece in. See if I can get some light over here for you. I'm going to hit my head on that thing. And do not fold the bottom under. Okay, so now that that's taken care of, now what I can do is I can stretch this, or not really stretch it. Let me zoom back out so I can hold this where you can see it. That's why doing this on this part, this sill unit's so long. Okay, so now what I want to do, is that on camera? Yeah. Is I want to make sure that when I bring it across, let me look at this thing on end. I want to make sure it's even across the front. Looks really good. So now I'll go ahead and burnish this. Okay. Now I accidentally folded that side. I don't want to do that. There we go. Okay. Now, then what I want to do now, as I said, not to fold it under, but I want to crease it across the bottom. That's going to show me where the bottom edge is. Okay, so then what I can do is I take a good sharp scalpel knife. It's even sharper than the X-Acto knife. It's got a new blade in it. And I just cut it. Pushing into the model. like that. Now I'll cut this end off. And I'll cut this end off. And that shows you how I mask my steps. Now I'll have a nice sharp line right across all of that. So I'll do that the same for this one. I'll do the same thing for the steps, line it up across the top. I'll measure each step so I know how big of a piece to cut. And then I'll cut that piece, line it up across the top, slice it across the bottom, and just move my way up the steps until I get all of them done. This I'll do probably with just a piece of Tamiya masking tape. Maybe. Well, here you see I've got everything on the sill unit mask. I got the step up on the blower duct masked. I've got the step edges masked. I've got the footboards masked. So now this is ready for black paint. So I'm going to go do that right now. These, of course, have to wait till my masking fluid comes back in, or comes in, so I can finish these off. So these will have to wait until I get that in. So I'm going to go paint this, and I'm also going to paint the draft gearboxes, because if I got black loaded up in the airbrush, I may as well get those painted. So let me go do that, and we'll take care of one of these on here. So I've got the mask of step edges done, the mask of blower duct done. Handrails are partially masked, so I can't check that one off. And then I'll get this painted, and I'll paint the I've got the those will get painted after I get these done, and then I'll get the sill unit painted. So we'll get that all taken care of. Okay, well, I've got the sill unit all painted black. I used Tamiya semi-gloss black, and I thinned it 1:1, so 1 part black, 1 part thinner, and I use Mr. Leveling Thinner. It makes it very, I want to say, kind of a clear black. It's very thin, so it goes on really nice smooth coat. So I had to apply a number of coats over this to get it to fully cover, but once it's done, it really hardens down or shrinks down real nice over the details, and there's not like heavy globs of paint anywhere or anything like that. Let me zoom in a little bit and we can see if we can get a good view of how smooth this paint is. Let me get there, it's all blurry. Now let me see if I can get it to focus. There we go. So now you can see, let me get the light positioned differently. So maybe you can see how smooth that paint is. Get the light over here. There we go. And I like that. I like how it turned out. So the MU hoses, now I use Kato MU hoses. So the holes are drilled out 25 thousandths and then drilled out again to 0.0264, I think is what it is. Yes, 0.0264. You really, if you want a tight fit for the MU hoses, if you're using the Kato MU hoses, then it's 25 thousandths. So you got to really press them in, and they'll stay. But I drilled it out again, chased it out with a 0.0264, and they go in snug, but it's not real hard to push them in. So that's a really good feature for that. So those will go into the pockets. Gosh, I keep coming off the camera. Those will go into the pockets and they'll look real nice. So that's my next step. I'm going to let this dry for overnight. I mean, I can handle it now fine, but I don't want to handle it as much as I need to handle it to get the tape off. So I'll take all the masking off tomorrow. So we'll do that on camera tomorrow. Still waiting for the, of course, for the masking fluid for those. I've got the draft gearboxes all painted black, so that's taken care of. Next up on my sheet is to do the MU hoses. So that's what this is. So what I'll be doing is I'll be grit blasting all of these. Then I'll paint them with Tamiya XF85 rubber black. Then I will be, tomorrow I'll be going to the hobby store. I just called them and they have everything I need. I'm going to get some pale gold. That's not for this paint session. Pale gold looks like a really good color for, these are all clad 2 colors. Is a really good color for a brass bell. Magnesium and steel, I got to compare those 2 colors. That's what I want to use for the metal part of the MU hoses. So I'm going to look at them. I don't want them to be a bright aluminum, and I don't want them to be a dull aluminum. I want to be more of a steel silver color, but I don't want them to be black either. So I'm going to see which one of those 2 will work. And then I'm going to get a dull aluminum for like window frames and windshield wipers and those kinds of things. And then of course I like to have a spare bottle of the Mr. Leveling Thinner, so I've just started my last bottle, so I need to get another one to put behind it, so I always have one full bottle to fall back on. So I will grit blast these. I'll get the Tamiya rubber black put on them. Then I'm going to mask off the rubber part, and I'll paint the steel parts gloss black, and then I'll decide which one of these, the magnesium or the steel, that I want to put over that. And then those will be done and ready to go on the model. But I won't put those on the model until after everything's clear coated and all that kind of stuff. So I used to use a polishable paint on the metal parts. The problem with the polishable paint, if you accidentally touch any other part, some of that polished or some of that paint will rub off on the part, and I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I used it on the GP35, and I mean, it looks good, and I didn't have any problems with it, but I think the all-clad will be a much durable paint, and it'll look much better. So I'm going to go ahead and get these grit blasted and painted. Okay, so it's been quite a few hours since I painted this. It's not the next day, but it's close enough. I have taken some tape off. You can see right here and in this step well here. So let me zoom in on that. Let me get this in focus. Somewhere it's going to focus. There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and try to do this side on camera and show you, you know, it's not really difficult to take it off, but there are some pitfalls here. Again, I use a sharp blade. This is the same blade I used to cut the foil, and it's got a nice sharp tip on it, which you need because you have to pick at the tape. And actually I have to come from this side because these steps actually have an area you can pick at, being the little scallops. So you can pull it out from there. What you don't want to do is gouge your paint. So once you get a little piece up, take your tweezers. Now this will probably tear, because they always do. Look at that, it's proving me wrong on camera. I had a feeling it would do that. Sometimes it leaves some residue behind, some glue residue. Just take a piece of masking tape and just dab at the step. And it gets all the residue out. I'm going to move some things out of the way here. Okay, so now we'll do the next step. Get a little piece up. Get this one off here. Now I will hold this up. And that one tore. That's okay, we'll just pick at it again. Come right in. we go. Just do some cleanup. It doesn't look like there's any glue on there, but just in case. And now we'll do the next step. That one seemed to come up really good. It's proving me wrong. Is making this look too easy. Because quite honestly, the other side I had to pick at it a few times because it tore in little pieces. But that's good. I mean, this is good. Okay. Thought I saw a little piece of silver in there. Now we'll do this top edge. Okay, so the back is done. So there you see the back steps and really nice crisp separation lines. You can see the scallops in the steps where the holes would be cut and such. Really like that. Okay, so the last thing I'll do on this, because the front's going to be the same way, you know, I just pick it off, same with the pilot plate. But let's do one of these steps here, or the end of the blower duct, then I'll do the everything else off camera. So we're going to go on here. This is a much broader area, so I'm going to find the edge. I'm going to pick at it, trying to hit just the tape and not the paint. Get this off of the end there. This will definitely tear into little pieces. It can be pretty tedious, but I only do this for this kind of stuff here. I don't do it for broad, like hood side taping or anything like that. I think I see one little piece down in there. Oh, a couple of pieces. Tweezers won't grab it. I have to have a talk with those tweezers. And that's it. So that's the step up. And I'll go, ooh, almost cut my finger. And I will go ahead and do this side and get the front done and come back and show you the whole thing. Okay, so I've got the MU hoses painted, and you can see I got some metal foil over masking off the area where the hose starts, the rubber part starts, and then you got the where the metal connector would be and the glad hand down here. So what I'm going to do is put a piece of tape just over this area right here on all of these, and then I can paint them gloss black, let that set, and then put the all-clad on there. I think I'm going to use all-clad steel. So there's that. I'll do that, and then I'll have to do the same thing for these. These are the train line hoses. So I'll go ahead and get that done, and we'll be done with that part. Okay, I've got the MU hoses painted. I use the all-clad magnesium. I like it a lot. You can see the rubber on the black. That's the Tamiya rubber paint. And then the steel or metal color is of course, the all-clad magnesium. I like the contrast. It's not too shiny, but it's not black, so it'll have a nice dull contrast against the black. So that's done, and there's the train line hoses. Those are done. So I can put those aside now. These will go on after I put the clear coat and satin varnish on the sill unit. So let me put these aside. Now today I did get my new bottles of Humbrol Mascol. So I can go ahead and finish the handrails. So what I showed you last time, of course, was doing this one, and the Mascol was so bad that it just wasn't going on well. So now I'm going to shake this up, and I can continue this and give you a better idea of this stuff going on. So it's just a liquidy goo on the inside, and I'll do this one over, but I'll start a new one just to give you a better idea. Okay, so let's get this all in focus here. There we go. So let's go ahead and do this one. So I'm going to just simply, so I've got a toothpick, I've got a blunt end, which is what you want. You don't want a pointy end. I like to use the blunt end. Now I do have a pointy end, and this pointy end is if I accidentally get any masking fluid on the stanchion, I just wait till it dries, and I take the sharp end and I just push it off until it's off of the stanchion. But you want to try not to get it on the stanchion. So I'll just dip some in here, and we're just going to go around the handrail and just coat it, making sure that you overlap your masking on the ends here. And that should do it. Now I'll take not those ones are terrible. I'll take my clamping tweezers, and now I'll just let that, I gotta twist that around a little bit. There we go. Now I can let that dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to all of these, and then I can paint it all black. So you can see this, it doesn't take too long for this stuff to dry. It'll dry to a dark purple. The main thing you want to keep in mind is just make sure you coat all surfaces that you don't want painted, of course. When it dries, as long as you've got a purplish tone over your yellow, then you know you've got it covered. Go. All right, so I've got the handrails painted black, and I've peeled all the masking off these 4 pieces. I still have 2 pieces to go, and I said I'd show how I do that and such. But real quick, I want to stress to you that if you're doing something like this with this masking fluid, when you go to peel them off this part, the end cages on the Kato models, you have to be very careful, again, not to stress this point right here, where this middle, these 2 middle hand or stanchions are, and the handrail comes off of them. Do not stress this point here and here. So when I take the masking off, I firmly hold this in my hand like that, so that none of this moves. Only this outer part will move. So let me show you how I take this stuff off. So here's this one. It's still masked and everything. So what I do is I hold firmly right here, and sometimes I can use some tweezers, and I can come in and don't squeeze too hard, and I can just pull that stuff back. But again, you don't want to squeeze too hard, because you don't want to go through it and have these tweezers stripping some of the paint or cutting through the paint. So once you get it like that, then you can just take it, if it'll release. Sometimes it'll release really easy and you can roll it down, and sometimes it catches. So there we go. And then you can just roll it down like a tube sock. When you get to the bottom, I just grab that ball there and pull it off. So now there's a little bit, you see this black paint on here, right in here? That's because I didn't put enough thickness in this rubber on there. I mean, it'll come off. I have to be very, very careful. To scrape that. I knew I should have come back and put more goo on there. I may even have to repaint that or shoot some paint over that. But I'm not scraping off any of the yellow. Or am I? No, just black. So that's the pitfalls that can happen if you don't put enough stuff on there. I'll get that off. But here's another one. Hopefully this one will come off better. Let's do this one here. There we go. And it's starting to roll down. And then I'll just grab that on the end. That one came off. And then that came off. And then I've got to get this piece of foil off. So I'll come in here and I'll lift it, being careful not to scratch the yellow. Take that off like that. Now, when you peel this stuff off, some of the black will like splinter apart, and it'll attach itself to the handrail with static. So I just come in with a piece of tape, and I will just rub it down real good. And also some of that glue might stay attached from the foil, so I'll just come in here and get that all taken off in there. And there, get some of that black off of there and stuff. So that's how I get that cleaned up and such, so that we end up with a nice sharp line right here at the stanchion. and I got to do a little bit more cleanup there, but I'll get all that black off like I've done on these parts here. And then I got a bit of work to do on this one and get that all cleaned up and inside of here. So, but that's how I do that. And this is the first time that's ever happened. I got lazy and I didn't put enough of that masking fluid on the inside, so it was really thin there. So, but I'll clean that up. I'll get that all taken care of, and it'll look just fine. So there you see how I do my masking, how I put it on. I use the foil to get it on, you know, to mask these ends by the stanchions, so I get a nice sharp separation line at the stanchion. Alright, well, I had to do a little bit of painting on that to fix it, but it's all taken care of. Masked off the stanchion and painted a little bit of yellow over the handrail portion. So the handrail's all done, and I can now install them on the locomotive and get to the part where I can, once I get all of the stanchions installed and the handrails in and all that stuff, then I can shoot a clear coat over the sill unit and get the decals in around the fuel fill and things like that. So this video is almost done. All right. Well, we're getting to the end of this video session. I had to cross out a few things because they're going to be done at the end. One of them is to install the train line hose. The other is to install the MU hoses. And the last one is to apply a satin varnish over everything. And the reason for that is because I don't want to put a gloss coat over the MU hoses or the train line hose, and I don't want to put a satin varnish over everything yet, because I have to wait till I glue the whole thing together, and that'll be one of the last things I do, is after I decal everything and then put the protective gloss varnish over it and then put the satin varnish over it. Because remember, this all has to be glued together. So I've got everything else done, and this is what, other way. This is the sill unit. It's all done. This is the other handrail set. So I've got the handrails in place. I've got the decals on, the emergency fuel cutoff plate painted red and such, and it's got a gloss varnish on it. So let's see what that's gonna look like all on this here, because I can put this on here now and just let it sit until I'm ready to work on other things. So there's that. So there's what we got so far. So I like it. I think it's turning out well. Also, these parts that go up to the cab, they will go on after it's all assembled also, because they don't hold in that deep. So once everything's together, I can put them in there and glue it, and everything will stay together nicely. So let's see what this is looking like now with everything on. Let's see if we can get this on quickly without dragging out this. Let's see how this, there we go. I won't bother to put the handrail on this head. I'll just turn this around, and you can get an idea of what we got going here. So I think it's going to be all right. I get to start working. Well, actually, the sub base is pretty much done. It's but it needs to be glued onto the cab and nose and stuff before I can paint it. I need to get a lot of the cab interior stuff, but in the next video I'll explain what we're going to do next and stuff like that. So that takes care of getting this sill unit up to speed with the other sill units. So now I can start making more progress in getting the shell and the cabs. I've got the other two cabs to do, and I've got this cab and sub base to do and such, but we'll touch on all that in the next video. Well, that takes care of bringing the Wreck Rebuild GP30 sill unit up to speed and to the point where the other sill units are, so I don't need to work on it anymore. It's time to move on to the sub base and the cabs and stuff. Getting these cabs done for the MD GP28, and hopefully getting all of this glued together and ready for detailing as well. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I tried to show you how I do my taping with the metal foil so I can get nice crisp parting lines and sharp edges with the paint and such. At this point, that sill unit is going to stay in a gloss varnish. It'll get its satin varnish once I get this completed and painted and then glued onto that sill unit and everything comes together. The last thing I'll be doing, of course, is peeling the tape off the windows and such. I'll be using AMB windows for this GP30. So right now that sill unit is pretty much done for the time being. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you lasted through this build so far, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to bringing you another installment of this with some more progress and maybe some more cool stuff going on. So again, thank you very much. Catch you next time.